I found out I had a brother when I was 32 years old. Not a half-brother from my father's previous relationship, not a stepbrother from a remarriage, but a full biological brother. Same mother, same father, who'd been alive for 30 years without me knowing he existed. His name was James, and he found me through a DNA testing website. The message came on a Tuesday morning while I was having coffee before work. I'd done one of those ancestry DNA tests 6 months earlier, a Christmas gift from my wife, Sarah, who thought it would be fun to learn about my heritage. I'd spit in the tube, sent it back, and mostly forgotten about it. Until the notification appeared on my phone. You have a new close DNA match. I clicked on it absently, expecting maybe a third cousin or distant relative I'd never heard of. Instead, I saw James Wilson, relationship, brother, shared DNA, 49.8%. Brother. I stared at the word like it was written in a foreign language. There had to be a mistake. The website had glitched, mixed up samples, something. Because I didn't have a brother. I was an only child, always had been. My parents, Richard and Margaret Carter, had told me my whole life that they'd wanted more children but couldn't have them after me. That I was their miracle baby, their one and only. I clicked on James Wilson's profile with shaking hands. There was a message waiting. Hi, Ryan. I know this is going to be shocking, but I think we're brothers. Full brothers. I was born on March 15th, 1994 at St. Mary's Hospital. My birth mother's name was Margaret Carter. She gave me up for adoption when I was 3 days old. I've been searching for my biological family for years. Please, if you're willing, I'd like to talk. I have so many questions. March 15th, 1994. I was born November 8th, 1992. James was 16 months younger than me, which meant my mother had been pregnant with him when I was just a baby myself, had carried him for 9 months, had given birth to him, and then had given him away, and never told me? Not once in 32 years had my mother mentioned that I had a brother, that she'd given up a baby for adoption, that somewhere out there was a person who shared my DNA, my family, my history. I sat there in my kitchen, with my coffee growing cold, reading and rereading that message, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. My phone rang. Sarah, calling from her office. Hey, did you remember to call the contractor about something? I have a brother. What? A brother. The DNA test, it matched me with a brother I never knew existed. My mother had another baby and gave him up for adoption and never told me. Silence on the other end. Then, Ryan, are you sure? Could it be a mistake? He knows her name. He knows where he was born. He knows the date. It's not a mistake, Sarah. It's real. Oh my God. What are you going to do? I had no idea. Confront my mother? Demand answers? Reach out to this stranger who shared half my DNA? I need to talk to her, I said. I need to hear her explain why she hid this from me. I drove to my parents' house that evening, James's message still burning in my mind. Mom answered the door with her usual bright smile, already talking about dinner plans and how Dad was watching some game on TV. I followed her into the kitchen, watching her move around the familiar space, and tried to reconcile this woman, my mother who'd raised me, who'd been at every Little League game and school play, with someone who could hide an entire child. Mom, I said, my voice coming out harder than I intended. I need to ask you something. She turned from the stove, her smile fading at my tone. What's wrong?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the DNA match. "Who is James Wilson?" The color drained from her face. The wooden spoon she'd been holding clattered to the floor. "Ryan," she started, but I cut her off. "I have a brother, a full brother, born 16 months after me, and you gave him up for adoption and never said a word. 30 years, Mom, 30 years you kept this secret. So I'm asking you now, who is James Wilson?" She gripped the counter like she might fall without it. Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. "Mom, answer me." "I was going to tell you," she whispered. "I always meant to tell you, but the timing was never right, and then so much time had passed, and I didn't know how." "Tell me what?" I demanded. "Tell me why you had a baby and gave him away? Tell me why I grew up thinking I was an only child when I had a brother out there somewhere?" "It wasn't that simple," she said, tears starting to stream down her face. "You don't understand what it was like. I was so young. We were struggling. Your father and I, we made the best decision we could at the time." "The best decision?" I felt rage building in my chest. "You gave away my brother? You let me grow up alone when I could have had a sibling. You lied to me every day of my life. How is that the best decision? Ryan, please, does Dad know? Does he know you've been lying to me?" Her silence was answer enough. "He knows," I said flatly. "You both know. You've been lying to me my entire life." "We were trying to protect you. From what? From having a brother? From the truth?" My father appeared in the kitchen doorway, drawn by the raised voices. I saw him in the moment he understood what we were talking about. His face went carefully neutral, the same expression he used when he was hiding something difficult. "Ryan, this is complicated. There are things you don't know." "Then tell me. Tell me everything. Because I just found out I have a brother, and the only thing I know about him is that you gave him away and never told me he existed. So start talking, now." My parents looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. And then my mother sat down at the kitchen table, her hands shaking, and she said the words that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. "James isn't just your brother, Ryan. He's your twin." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "What?" "You're twins," she repeated, her voice breaking. "Fraternal twins. You were born together, and we kept you and gave him away." I stood there in my childhood kitchen, staring at my parents, and felt my entire reality shatter. I had a twin brother, a twin. Someone who'd shared the womb with me, who'd been born the same day as me. And they'd separated us, kept one and gave the other away, like he was nothing. "Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Why would you do that?" "We couldn't afford 2 babies, Dad said, his voice rough. "We were barely 22. We had no money, no support. We were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. We couldn't—" "So you chose me," I interrupted. "You picked one twin and threw the other one away." "It wasn't like that," Mom sobbed. "We didn't have a choice. We thought we were doing the right thing. We thought giving James to a family who could provide for him was better than keeping both of you and failing you both." "But you told me I was an only child. You told me you couldn't have more children. You made me grow up thinking I was alone when my twin brother was out there somewhere without his family." "We thought it was easier for you," Dad said. "Easier for James. We thought if you never knew, you'd never feel the loss." "You thought wrong," I said. I turned and walked out of their house, out of their lies, leaving them both crying at the kitchen table. And as I drove home through the dark streets, I thought about James, my twin, my brother, the person I should have grown up with, the person who should have been part of my life from the very beginning. He'd been searching for us for years, his message said. Years of wondering who his biological family was. Years of questions about where he came from and why he'd been given away. And now he'd found me. Found us. But the family he'd found wasn't what any of us thought it was. Because that DNA test didn't just reveal that I had a brother. It revealed a lie that had been 30 years in the making. A secret so big, it had shaped my entire life without me knowing it existed. And I had no idea if our family could survive the truth. I met Sarah Chen when I was 25 years old. We were both working at the same marketing firm in Seattle, her in graphic design, me in account management. She had this way of making everything seem lighter, easier, like problems that felt insurmountable to me were just puzzles waiting to be solved. We started dating after 6 months of increasingly obvious mutual attraction that everyone in the office could see, except us. Our first date was coffee that turned into dinner, that turned into walking around the city until 2 a.m, talking about everything and nothing. "Tell me about your family," she'd said that night. "Not much to tell. Only child, parents still married, pretty standard suburban upbringing. You?" "3 sisters," she said with a laugh. "Never a quiet moment growing up. Always someone borrowing your clothes or stealing your snacks. I can't imagine what it's like being an only child." "It's lonely sometimes," I'd admitted. "I used to wish I had a sibling. Someone to share things with, someone who'd understand the family dynamics in a way friends never quite could." That conversation came back to me now, bitter and ironic. I had a sibling all along, a twin, and I'd been denied the relationship I'd always wanted because my parents had made a choice I'd never had any say in. Sarah and I got married 2 years after that first date. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. My parents had seemed so happy that day, so proud. They'd given a toast about how I was their greatest joy, their miracle baby who'd grown into a wonderful man. All lies, or at least incomplete truths that felt like lies now. We'd bought a house in the suburbs 3 years ago, a modest 3-bedroom that we planned to fill with kids eventually. Sarah was 5 months pregnant now with our first child, a daughter we'd already named Emma. And I'd been planning to tell her about my childhood, about growing up as an only child, about all the family stories I wanted to share, never knowing that the foundation of those stories was built on deception. I sat in my car outside our house for 20 minutes after leaving my parents' place, trying to compose myself before going inside, trying to figure out what to say to my pregnant wife about the bombshell that had just detonated in my life. Finally, I went in. Sarah was on the couch, laptop balanced on her growing belly, working on some freelance project. She looked up when I entered, and her expression immediately shifted to concern. "What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Twin," I said. "Not a brother. A twin. They had twins and kept me and gave James away." Sarah's laptop nearly slid to the floor. "A twin? Ryan, that's insane. Why would they? How could they?" "They said they couldn't afford 2 babies. Said they thought they were doing the right thing." I sat down heavily beside her. "Sarah, I have a twin brother I've never met, someone who should have been part of my entire life, and my parents just chose me, like picking out groceries. We'll take this one and leave that one." "Oh, Ryan," she wrapped her arms around me as best she could with the belly between us. "I'm so sorry. I can't even imagine what you're feeling right now." "I don't know what I'm feeling," I admitted. Angry, betrayed, confused, but also, Sarah, I have a brother, a twin. Part of me is actually excited about that. Is that crazy?" "It's not crazy," she assured me. "It's complicated. You can be angry at your parents and still want to know James. Those things are not mutually exclusive." "He wants to meet me. He sent a message saying he has questions." "Are you going to respond?" I pulled out my phone and looked at James' profile picture for the 100th time that day. Dark hair like mine, similar bone structure, but different too. His face was thinner, his smile more cautious. He looked like someone who'd learned to be careful with the world. "Yeah," I said. "I'm going to respond." I typed out a message that night, deleting and rewriting it a dozen times before finally settling on, "James, I just found out about you today. I had no idea I had a brother, a twin. This is all very overwhelming, but yes, I'd like to talk. I have questions too, a lot of them. Can we set up a video call?" His response came within 10 minutes. "Thank you for writing back. I was afraid you wouldn't want to contact me. Yes, absolutely. Let's talk. I'm free tomorrow evening if that works for you." We set up the call for 7 p.m. the next day. I spent the entire day at work unable to concentrate, my mind spinning with questions and scenarios and a strange mix of anticipation and dread. What would he be like? Would we have anything in common? Would it feel natural or awkward? Would he hate me for being the one our parents kept? At 6:55 p.m., I sat down at my desk with my laptop open, Sarah beside me for moral support. My hands were shaking slightly as I clicked the video call link. James answered immediately. And seeing him on screen, seeing someone who looked so much like me but wasn't me, was one of the strangest experiences of my life. "I'm going to find out," I said firmly. "My parents owe us both an explanation. A real one, not just we couldn't afford 2 babies." "Are you still in contact with them?" "Barely. I left their house last night and haven't talked to them since. They've been calling and texting, but I haven't responded. I don't know what to say to them." "I'd like to meet them," James said quietly, "if you're willing to arrange it. I have questions only they can answer." The thought of bringing James face to face with our parents felt overwhelming, but he deserved that, deserved the chance to confront the people who'd given him away. "Okay," I said, let me talk to them first, prepare them, and then we can set something up." We talked for another hour, swapping stories about our lives, finding surprising similarities despite our different upbringings. We both loved science fiction, both played guitar, both had broken the same wrist falling off bikes when we were 9. His left, mine right, mirror images. "Genetics are weird," James said with a slight smile. "Or maybe it's a twin thing," I countered. "Maybe." After the call ended, Sarah and I sat in silence for a while. "He seems nice," she finally said. "Sad, but nice." "He deserved better," I said. "He deserved to grow up with us, to be part of this family." "Your parents made a choice they thought was right at the time," Sarah said carefully. "I'm not defending them, but how can you not defend them? They gave away their own child. They lied about it for 30 years. They let James grow up feeling unwanted while I grew up feeling loved. How is any of that okay?" "It's not okay," Sarah agreed. "But Ryan, people make terrible decisions when they're young and scared and overwhelmed. Your parents were barely out of college. They had no money, no support system. 2 newborns would have been incredibly difficult. Lots of people manage with twins. And lots of people don't. Lots of people struggle and fail and hurt their children trying to do too much with too little." She took my hand. "I'm not saying what they did was right. I'm just saying maybe it's more complicated than they loved you and didn't love James." I wanted to argue, but a small part of me knew she was right. The world wasn't that simple. People weren't that simple. Still, the betrayal burned. They'd lied to me my entire life, made me believe I was an only child when they had had 2 sons. Let me grow up lonely when I'd had a twin brother who could have been my best friend, my partner, my other half. That was a theft I didn't know how to forgive. Over the next few days, I finally responded to my parents' increasingly desperate messages. I told them I needed time, that I was processing, that I was in contact with James and planned to build a relationship with him whether they liked it or not. My mother's response was immediate. "Please, Ryan, let us explain properly. There's so much you don't know. Can we meet, the three of us?" I agreed, reluctantly. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, far from their house with all the memories of a childhood that now felt tainted. They looked terrible. Mom had dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept. Dad's face was drawn, aged 10 years in a week. Part of me felt bad for them, but a larger part stayed angry. "Thank you for meeting us," Mom said as soon as we'd sat down. "Talk," I said without preamble. "Tell me everything, and I mean everything. No more lies, no more half-truths. I want to know exactly what happened and why." My parents exchanged that look again, the one that had become familiar over the past week, the look that said they were about to tell me something I didn't want to hear. "We were 22 when you were born," Mom started. "Just graduated from college. Your dad had his first real job, but the pay was terrible. We were living in a tiny apartment, barely making rent, and I got pregnant. We were excited at first," Dad continued. "Scared, but excited. We thought we could handle it. Then at the 20-week ultrasound, we found out it was twins." "And you panicked," I said. "We panicked," Mom confirmed. "We ran the numbers over and over. We simply couldn't afford 2 babies. Couldn't afford the daycare, couldn't afford the diapers and formula and everything times 2. We were going to have to move in with one of our parents, and neither of our families had space for all of us plus 2 infants. So you decided to give one away," I said flatly. "We decided to consider adoption," Dad corrected. "We met with an agency. They explained how it worked. They told us about families who desperately wanted children and couldn't have them, families who could provide everything we couldn't. And it seemed like a solution, a terrible solution, but a solution. We could keep one baby, give that baby the best life we could manage, and the other baby would go to a family that could provide more than we could. It seemed like the most loving thing to do." "For who? For you?" "Because it certainly wasn't loving for James. He grew up feeling like he had to earn his place in his own family. He grew up knowing he was adopted, knowing his birth family had chosen not to keep him. How is that loving?" "We didn't know it would be like that," Mom said, tears starting. "The agency promised he'd go to a good family. They assured us he'd be loved and cared for. But you never checked. You never followed up. You gave him away and then pretended he didn't exist." "We weren't allowed to," Dad said. "It was a closed adoption. We had no legal right to information about James or his adoptive family, and the agency strongly discouraged birth families from trying to maintain contact. They said it was better for the child to make a clean break." "So you made a clean break," I said bitterly. "You erased him from your lives, erased him from my life. I could have had a brother, a twin, and you took that from both of us." "We thought it would be easier," Mom whispered. "If you never knew, you'd never feel the loss. And if James was raised by people who loved him and wanted him, he'd have a better life than we could have given him." "But I did feel the loss," I said. "My whole childhood I felt lonely. I wished I had a sibling. And all along I had one. You just didn't think I deserved to know." "It wasn't about what you deserved," Dad said. "We were trying to protect you from what? From the truth? From having a relationship with my own twin brother?" "From the pain," Mom said. "From growing up knowing that your parents had to choose between their children. From feeling guilty that you were kept and he wasn't. From the confusion and hurt that we knew would come from this situation. So you lied instead. For 30 years, you let me grow up thinking I was an only child. You told me you couldn't have more children after me. You built an entire false narrative about our family." "We did," Dad admitted. "And maybe that was wrong. But Ryan, at the time, it seemed like the kindest thing to do. We thought if no one knew, no one would be hurt. Except James. James was hurt. He's been searching for us for years. He did a DNA test hoping to find his biological family. And when he found me, when he found out he has a twin brother, he also found out that his birth parents chose one twin over the other. Can you even imagine how that feels? Mom was crying openly now. I think about it every day. Every single day for 30 years I've thought about the baby I gave away, wondered where he was, if he was happy, if he hated me, if he'd ever try to find us. But you never tried to find him, I pointed out. We couldn't, Dad said. Legally, we had no right. And emotionally, how do you reach out to the child you gave away? What do you say? Sorry we gave you up, hope you had a nice life? You could have been honest with me, I said. You could have told me I had a twin who was adopted, given me the choice to search for him when I was old enough. Instead, you stole that choice from both of us. We sat in painful silence. Finally, Mom asked, "Have you talked to James?" "Yes, we had a video call. We're building a relationship." "What's he like?" There was such naked longing in her voice. "Is he okay? Has he had a good life?" "You don't get to ask that," I said harshly. "You don't get to know about his life when you chose not to be part of it." "Ryan, please," I interrupted. "He wants to meet you, both of you. He has questions. He deserves answers. So I'm going to arrange a meeting, and you're going to show up and tell him everything he wants to know. You owe him that much." "Of course," Dad said immediately. "Whenever he wants, whatever he needs." "But Ryan," Mom said desperately, "what about us? What about our relationship? Are you ever going to forgive us?" I looked at my mother, the woman who'd raised me, who'd loved me, who'd been there for every important moment of my life. And I thought about James, growing up without any of that, without birthday parties where Mom made special cakes, without Dad teaching him to ride a bike, without any of the million small moments that had made up my childhood. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Right now I'm too angry to forgive, too hurt, too betrayed. Maybe someday, but not today." I stood up to leave. "Ryan, wait," Mom called. "There's something else, something you need to know before you meet with James." "What?" She and Dad exchanged another loaded look. "The reason we gave him up," Mom said slowly. "It wasn't just about money. There was a medical issue." My blood went cold. "What kind of medical issue?" "James was born with a heart condition. It wasn't life-threatening, but it required surgery. Expensive surgery. Surgery we had no way to pay for." I stared at them. "You gave him up because he needed medical care?" "We gave him up because a family with better resources could provide that medical care," Mom corrected. "The Wilsons had insurance that covered everything. They could afford the best surgeons, the best follow-up care. We couldn't. We could barely afford the hospital bill for the delivery." "So you kept the healthy twin and gave away the sick one," I said, my voice hollow. "We kept you because you didn't need immediate medical intervention," Dad said. "We placed James with a family who could give him the medical care that would save his life. It wasn't about loving one more than the other. It was about making sure both of you survived." The information sat between us like a bomb. All this time I'd thought my parents had simply chosen me out of convenience or preference, but the truth was darker and more complicated. They'd made a choice based on which baby they could afford to keep alive. "Does James know about the heart condition?" "I don't know," Mom said. "It would have been in his medical records. Whether his adoptive parents told him is another question." I thought about our video call, about James mentioning he'd broken his wrist as a kid, about talking about his childhood and his adoptive family. He'd never mentioned any medical issues, never mentioned heart surgery or health problems. Had he not known, or had he chosen not to share that information with a stranger he'd just met? "I need to go," I said. "Ryan, wait, I need time to process this, all of it," I said. "I'll contact you about the meeting with James, but right now, I need to go." I walked out of the coffee shop into the cool afternoon air, my mind reeling with this new information. James had been sick, had needed surgery, and my parents had given him away to save his life. That changed things, didn't it? Or did it just make the whole situation more tragic? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore, except that in 3 weeks, my parents and James would meet face to face for the first time in 30 years, and I had no idea what would happen when they did. I didn't tell James about the heart condition right away. Part of me felt like that information should come from our parents during the meeting. Another part worried that it might sound like I was defending their choice to give him away, and a larger part simply didn't know how to bring it up. Hey, by the way, our parents gave you up because you were born sick, and they couldn't afford to save your life. Hope that doesn't make things weird. No, that conversation needed to happen in person, with all of us in the same room. James and I talked on the phone several times over the next 2 weeks, getting to know each other, sharing stories, finding more strange similarities. We both took our coffee black, both hated olives, both had that recurring nightmare about showing up to school in our underwear. It's so weird, James said during one call. Like I spent my whole life feeling like I didn't quite fit in anywhere, like there was something missing. And now I'm talking to you, and it's like finding a piece you didn't know was lost. Exactly. Is that crazy? If it is, we're both crazy. Sarah watched these conversations with a mixture of happiness and concern. She was glad I was connecting with James, but worried about how much emotional energy I was investing in this new relationship while simultaneously processing my anger at my parents. You're trying to do too much at once, building a relationship with James while also dealing with betrayal from your parents. It's a lot, Ryan. What am I supposed to do? Ignore James until I'm done being angry at my parents? No, but maybe slow down a little. Give yourself time to feel everything before you try to fix everything. I'm not trying to fix anything, I protested. Aren't you? You're arranging this meeting, playing mediator between James and your parents, trying to make sure everyone gets what they need. That's fixing, Ryan. She was right, though I didn't want to admit it. I'd always been a fixer, the person who smoothed over conflicts, who found solutions, who made sure everyone was okay. But this wasn't a problem I could fix. This was a fracture that had existed for 30 years, and my presence wasn't going to magically heal it. I'd set the meeting for a Saturday afternoon at our house. Neutral territory, but with me there to moderate if things got too heated. James agreed, though I could hear the nervousness in his voice when we discussed it. What if they don't like me? He asked. What if they regret giving me up? Or worse, what if they don't regret it at all? There's no way to predict how they'll react, I said honestly. But James, whatever happens, you deserve answers. You deserve to hear the truth directly from them. Do I? Part of me thinks maybe it's better not to know. Maybe some questions shouldn't be answered. Do you really believe that? A long pause. No. I need to know, even if it hurts. My parents were equally anxious about the meeting. Mom called me 3 times in the week leading up to it, asking what she should say, how she should act, whether James hated them. I don't know what he feels, I told her during the 3rd call. You'll have to ask him yourself. What if he's angry? What if he yells at us? Then you let him yell. You let him express whatever he's feeling. You owe him that much. I know, Mom whispered. I don't know if I can handle seeing him, seeing what he looks like now, seeing the man he's become without us. You're going to have to handle it, I said, more harshly than I intended. You made this choice 30 years ago. Now you get to face the consequences. After I hung up, I felt guilty for being so cold, but the anger was still there, simmering beneath everything. Every time I thought about James growing up feeling unwanted, every time I remembered the loneliness of my own childhood that could have been different, the anger flared up again. Sarah was 8 months pregnant now, moving slowly and uncomfortably, her belly enormous. We'd decided she should be present for the meeting, but would stay in another room if things got too intense. I want to support you, she'd said, but I don't want our baby's first introduction to family drama to be this meeting. Fair enough. The morning of the meeting, I woke up with my stomach in knots. Sarah was already up, moving around the kitchen, making coffee and setting out food, cheese, crackers, fruit, like this was a social gathering instead of a potential emotional bomb. "Do you think this is a mistake?" I asked her as I helped arrange plates. "Having the meeting? All of it? Reaching out to James? Confronting my parents? Maybe some secrets should stay buried." Sarah set down the plate she was holding and turned to face me fully. "Ryan, if you'd never done that DNA test, James would still be out there searching. Your parents would still be hiding this secret, and you'd still be living a lie without knowing it. At least now, painful as it is, everyone knows the truth. But what if the truth just makes everything worse? Then you deal with that, together, as a family, whatever that family looks like now." James arrived first at 1:50 p.m., 10 minutes early. I watched him park his car and sit there for a moment, psyching himself up. Then he got out and walked toward the house, his movements stiff with nervousness. I opened the door before he could knock. "Hey," I said. "Hey." He looked past me into the house. "Are they here yet?" "Not yet. Come in. Sarah's in the kitchen." He followed me inside, and I watched him take in the space, the photos on the walls, the furniture, the small details that made this our home. His eyes lingered on a photo of me as a child, maybe 7 or 8, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. "That's what you looked like as a kid," he said softly. "Probably similar to what you looked like." "I'll never know. The Wilsons didn't take many pictures when I was young. Said there was no point since cameras were expensive and film had to be developed." The casual revelation of that small deprivation, something as simple as childhood photos, hit me hard. I had albums of pictures, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons, a documented childhood. James had gaps in his history that could never be filled. Sarah came out of the kitchen, her pregnant belly arriving a moment before the rest of her. "You must be James. I'm Sarah." "Nice to meet you," James said, then gestured at her belly. "Congratulations. When are you due?" 4 weeks. We're having a girl, Emma." "That's a beautiful name." They made small talk for a few minutes. Sarah's easy warmth helped James relax slightly. Then we heard a car pull up outside. My parents. James's whole body tensed. I could see his hands shaking slightly as he gripped the armrest of the chair he'd settled into. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No, but let's do this anyway." I opened the door. My parents stood on the porch looking terrified. Mom had clearly been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. Dad had his arm around her shoulders, supporting her. They stepped inside, and immediately their eyes went to James. The moment stretched out. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad went very still. And James just sat there, staring at the people who'd given him away 30 years ago. "Hi," James finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "James." Mom's voice broke on his name. "Oh my God, you look just like..." She gestured helplessly at me. "We're twins," James said. "That's generally how it works." The slight edge in his voice made it clear this wasn't going to be a warm union. "Please sit down," Sarah said, gesturing to the couch. "Can I get anyone something to drink?" "Water," Mom managed. We all settled into the living room, my parents on the couch, James in the armchair across from them, me on the other chair, Sarah perched on the armrest beside me. The silence was excruciating. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "James, we're so glad you found us. We've thought about you every day for..." "Don't," James interrupted. "Don't start with platitudes. If you thought about me every day, you would have looked for me. You would have tried to contact me. You didn't. So let's not pretend this is some joyful reunion." Mom flinched like she'd been slapped. "You're right," Dad said quietly. "This isn't joyful. This is painful and complicated and long overdue. What do you want to know?" everything, James said. I want to know why you gave me away. I want to know how you decided which twin to keep. I want to know if you ever regretted it. I want to know why you lied to Ryan about my existence. I want all of it." My parents exchanged that look again. Then Mom took a shaky breath and began. "We were 22 years old, barely making ends meet. When we found out we were having twins, we were terrified. We ran the numbers over and over, and there was just no way we could afford 2 babies. We couldn't afford the childcare, the supplies, the everything times 2 that twins require." "Lots of people manage with twins," James said, echoing my earlier words. "Lots of people have support systems, family who can help, financial resources. We had none of that. Both our families were struggling themselves. We had no one to turn to." "So you decided to keep one and give one away," James said flatly. "We decided to place one for adoption with a family that could provide what we couldn't," Dad corrected. "How did you choose?" James asked. "Flip a coin? Rock, paper, scissors? What?" The bitterness in his voice was palpable. Mom's eyes filled with tears again. "You were born with a heart condition, ventricular septal defect. You needed surgery and we had no way to pay for it. The adoption agency found a family, the Wilsons, who had excellent insurance that would cover everything. They could give you the medical care that would save your life. We couldn't." James went very still. "What?" "You had a hole in your heart," Dad explained. "The doctor said it needed to be repaired within the first year of life. The surgery was expensive, tens of thousands of dollars. We had no insurance that would cover it. We were looking at bankruptcy or worse." "So you gave me away," James said slowly, "because I was sick." "We placed you with a family who could make you healthy," Mom said desperately. "The Wilsons wanted a child so badly. They could afford the surgery, the follow-up care, everything. They saved your life, James. We couldn't have done that." "Did they?" James asked. "Did they save my life?" My parents looked confused. "Did they tell you I had the surgery? Did they send updates about my medical care?" "It was a closed adoption," Dad said. "We had no legal right." "Legal right?" James' voice rose. "I'm your son. Legal rights don't matter when it's your own child. If you'd really wanted to find me, you would have tried." "And what would we have said?" Dad shot back. "Hello, we're the parents who gave you away. Hope you don't mind us disrupting your life. We thought it was better to leave you alone, to let you have whatever peace and stability you'd found." "I didn't have peace," James said. "I had questions. I had emptiness. I had a sense of not belonging anywhere. And all along, I had a twin brother who could have been part of my life, but you kept that from both of us." He turned to me. "Did you know? Growing up, did you ever suspect?" "No, never. They told me they couldn't have more children after me. I believed them." "So they lied to you too, built your entire childhood on a lie. Doesn't that make you angry?" "I am angry," I admitted. "Furious, actually. But James, they're still my parents. They still raised me. I can be angry at them and still love them. Those things are not mutually exclusive." "They didn't raise me," James said. "They gave me away. Why should I love them?" "You shouldn't," I said. "I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying it's complicated for me in a way that it isn't for you." James stared at me. "You're defending them." "I'm not. You are. You're making excuses for them. Poor young parents, didn't know what they were doing, made the best choice they could. But Ryan, they didn't make the best choice for me. They made the best choice for themselves. They kept the healthy baby and got rid of the sick one. That's the truth." "That's not—" "It is the truth," James shouted. "You can dress it up however you want. You can talk about medical care and financial resources and doing what was best for both babies. But at the end of the day, you chose one of us and rejected the other. And I was the one rejected." The room fell silent except for Mom's crying. Sarah shifted uncomfortably beside me. "Maybe we should all take a break. This is getting very heated." "I'm not done," James said. "I came here for answers, and I still have questions." He looked at my parents. "Do you regret it, giving me away? If you could go back and do it differently, would you?" Mom and Dad looked at each other, another one of those loaded silences. "I don't know," Mom finally said. If I could go back knowing what I know now, that the surgery wouldn't be necessary, that the Wilsons would be difficult, that you'd spend your life feeling abandoned, yes, I'd change things. I'd find a way to keep both of you. But if I go back to who I was then, scared and 22, with 2 newborns and no resources, I don't know if I'd make a different choice. I don't know if I could. That's honest. Brutal, but honest. What do you want from us? Dad asked. What would make this right? Nothing, James said. Nothing can make this right. You can't give me back 30 years. You can't undo the loneliness and confusion and sense of not belonging. You can't make me unabandoned. So why did you come here? Mom asked. If nothing we say or do can make a difference, why did you want to meet us? Because I needed to see your faces when you tried to justify what you did. I needed to hear you explain it. I needed to know whether you actually thought about me or if I was just a mistake you'd erased from your history. You were never a mistake, Dad said firmly. You were our son. You are our son. That never changed. Except you gave me to someone else to raise. So really, I stopped being your son when I was 3 days old. James, I said, what do you want to happen now, going forward? He looked at me. I don't know. I wanted answers. I got them. They're not the answers I hoped for, but they're the truth. Now I guess I have to figure out what to do with that truth. Do you want a relationship with them? With us? With this family? I want a relationship with you. You're my twin. You're innocent in all this. But them? He gestured at my parents. I don't know. Right now I don't even like them, much less love them. That's fair, I said. It's not fair, Mom protested. We did what we thought was best. For yourselves, James interrupted. You did what was best for yourselves. Just admit it. Fine, Dad said, his voice hard. Fine, you want brutal honesty? Yes, we did what was best for us. We were barely adults ourselves. We were terrified. We couldn't handle 2 babies, and we made a choice that allowed us to survive. We kept the baby who didn't need immediate medical care, and we placed the baby who did with a family who could help him. That was selfish. That was self-preservation. Is that what you want to hear? Yes, that's exactly what I want to hear. Finally, the truth without the pretty wrapping paper. Mom was crying harder now. James, please, we're sorry. We're so sorry. We made a terrible choice and we've lived with the guilt of it every day for 30 years. But we can't change the past. All we can do is try to build something in the present. Build what? James asked. A relationship? A family? You can't just manufacture that because you suddenly feel guilty. Then what do you want? Mom asked desperately. Tell us what you want and we'll do it. James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I want you to acknowledge that you hurt me, that your choice, whatever your reasons, caused me pain. I want you to stop trying to justify it or make excuses. I want you to just say, we hurt you, and we're sorry. Dad looked at Mom. She nodded. We hurt you, Dad said clearly. Our choice to place you for adoption caused you pain. Regardless of our reasons, regardless of our intentions, we hurt you, and we're sorry. We're so sorry. We're sorry for the loneliness you felt. We're sorry for the questions you couldn't get answered. We're sorry for the relationship with Ryan that you were denied. We're sorry for all of it. James' face worked through several emotions. Anger, grief, something that might have been relief. Thank you, he said finally. That's all I needed to hear. He stood up. I should go. Already? I asked. This is a lot to process. I need time and space. But Ryan, I'll call you. We'll stay in touch. What about them? I gestured at my parents. James looked at them for a long moment. I don't know yet. Maybe eventually, but not now. He walked to the door. I followed him out to his car. Are you okay? I asked. No, but I will be, eventually. He paused with his hand on the car door. Thank you for arranging this, for letting me confront them, for being willing to acknowledge that what happened was wrong. You're my brother. Twin or not, I'm on your side. Even though they're your parents? Even though they raised you? They can be my parents and still have done something terrible. Those things both exist at once. James nodded slowly. That's more nuanced thinking than I'm capable of right now, but I'm glad you can hold both truths. He got in his car and drove away, leaving me standing in the driveway. When I went back inside, my parents were still on the couch, holding each other and crying. Sarah had moved to give them space, standing awkwardly in the kitchen doorway. "That went about as well as could be expected," she said dryly. I sat down heavily in the chair James had vacated. "He hates you," I said to my parents. "We know." "And I'm not sure I don't hate you too." Mom looked at me devastated. "Ryan, you lied to me my entire life. You stole my twin from me. You made choices that benefited you at enormous cost to James and me. How am I supposed to just forgive that?" "We don't expect you to forgive us. Not immediately, maybe not ever. But Ryan, we did the best we could. That has to count for something." "Does it?" I asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, your best wasn't good enough. Your best left James feeling abandoned and me feeling deceived. So I'm not sure your intentions matter when the results were so destructive." I stood up. "I think you should go. I need time with my wife, time to process all of this." "Ryan, please." "Go," I said firmly. "I'll call you when I'm ready to talk, but right now I need you to leave." They left, slowly, reluctantly. Mom tried to hug me on the way out, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready for that yet. After they'd gone, Sarah came and sat beside me on the couch. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" "For holding space for James, for not immediately defending your parents, for letting yourself be angry." Mom looked at me for permission. I nodded. She carefully lifted Emma from the bassinet, cradling her with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her granddaughter. "She looks like you did," Mom said to me, "when you were born. Same nose, same chin." Dad peered over her shoulder, his own eyes misty. "She's perfect, Ryan. Absolutely perfect." "Thank you." We sat in awkward silence for a while, my parents taking turns holding Emma, Sarah and me watching them interact with our daughter. Finally, Mom said quietly, "Has James seen her?" "Not yet. He lives 4 hours away, but I sent him a picture." "What did he say?" "That she's lucky to have me as a dad." Mom's face crumpled. "Ryan?" "Don't," I said. "Not here, not now. This is Emma's time. Let's just focus on that." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "You're right. I'm sorry." They stayed for an hour, doting on Emma, making careful small talk about the hospital and the delivery and our plans for going home. They didn't mention James again. Didn't talk about the confrontation or the secrets or the pain. When they left, Mom hugged me carefully. "Thank you for letting us meet her, for including us. I know we don't deserve." "You're her grandparents," I said. "Whatever else is happening between us, Emma deserves to know her family." "All of her family?" Mom asked carefully. "Including James, yes." After they'd gone, Sarah said, "That was civil." "It was something," I agreed. "Are you okay?" I looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. I don't know. Seeing them with her, seeing how much they love her already, it makes me understand how they could have loved us, both of us, and still made the choice they made. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes circumstances matter more than feelings. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to help you understand that people can love their children and still fail them. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. She was right, but it didn't make anything easier. We brought Emma home 2 days later. The house that had felt spacious before suddenly felt small with a newborn in it. Everything revolved around her, Her feeding schedule, her sleep schedule, her endless tiny needs. I was exhausted and overwhelmed and completely in love. James called a week after Emma was born. "How's fatherhood?" he asked. "Terrifying, wonderful. I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a stretch in days, but I can't stop staring at her. Is that normal?" "I think so. I mean, I don't have kids, but that's what I've heard." "You should come visit. Meet your niece. She's amazing, James. You'd love her." Silence on the other end. Then, "Would your parents be there?" "Not if you don't want them to be. This would be about you and Emma and us. We can keep it separate." "I don't want to cause problems." "You're not causing problems. You're my brother. You're Emma's uncle. You have a right to meet her." Another pause. "Okay, yeah, I'd like that. When?" "Whenever you can make it. Next weekend? The one after?" "Next weekend works. I'll drive up Saturday morning." "Great. We'll plan on lunch. Nothing fancy, just you, me, Sarah, and Emma." "Sounds good." After we hung up, Sarah asked, "You really think it's a good idea to have James meet Emma before he's worked things out with your parents?" "He might never work things out with my parents. Should that mean he doesn't get to know Emma?" "No, but it complicates things, Ryan. Your parents are going to want to see Emma regularly. James is going to want to be part of her life. How do you manage that without them running into each other?" "Carefully," I said. "Very carefully." But as the week went on, I realized Sarah was right. The logistics of having both my parents and James in Emma's life while keeping them separate was going to be nearly impossible. Something had to give. James arrived on Saturday at noon, carrying a gift bag and looking nervous. "She's so small," he said when I placed Emma in his arms. "I forgot how small babies are." "Have you held many babies?" "My neighbor has a kid. I babysat a few times." He looked down at Emma, who was staring up at him with unfocused eyes. "Hi, Emma. I'm your Uncle James. We're going to be friends, you and me." Watching James with my daughter, watching him be gentle and careful and immediately smitten, I felt a surge of anger at my parents all over again. This should have been normal. James should have been around for my entire life. Should have been there when I graduated high school, when I got married, when I found out Sarah was pregnant. We should have had 30 years of brotherhood, and instead we had a few months of tentative connection. That theft of time, of relationship, of history suddenly felt unbearable. "I'm going to call my parents," I said abruptly. Sarah looked up from where she had been making lunch. "What?" "I'm going to call them and tell them to come over. Today, now." "Ryan, I don't think—" "James," I interrupted, "would you be willing to see them if I called them right now and asked them to come over?" James looked startled. Why?" "Because this is ridiculous. Emma is 1 week old and we're already having to coordinate schedules to keep you and our parents apart. That's not sustainable. And more than that, it's not right. You're brothers, we're family. Whatever happened 30 years ago, we're all connected through Emma now." "I'm not ready," James said. "You might never be ready. But ready or not, we all have to figure out how to exist in the same space, for Emma's sake." James was quiet for a long moment, still holding Emma. Then he said, "What if it goes badly? What if I say things I regret? What if they say things?" "Then we deal with it, together, as a family." "We're not a family," James said flatly. "Not really." "Then let's try to become one." James looked down at Emma again, then at me, then at Sarah, who was watching this entire exchange with wide eyes. "Okay," he finally said, "call them." I pulled out my phone before I could second-guess the decision. Mom answered on the first ring. "Ryan, is everything okay? Is Emma?" "Emma's fine. Mom, I need you and Dad to come over. Now. Today." "We can come tomorrow if today's not—" "Now, Mom. I need you to come now." "Why? What's happening?" I took a breath. "James is here. He's meeting Emma, and I think it's time you all tried to have a conversation like adults." Silence. Then, James is there? At your house? Yes. Ryan, I don't think... Mom, please, just come. Both of you. We need to do this. Another pause. Give us 20 minutes. They arrived in 15. I opened the door to find them both looking terrified. Mom was clutching Dad's hand like a lifeline. He's in the living room, I said, with Emma. They followed me inside. James was sitting on the couch with Emma still in his arms. He looked up when my parents entered, and I watched his entire body tense. Hello, James, Mom said softly. Margaret? Richard. James's voice was carefully neutral. Please, call us Mom and Dad. I have a mom and dad, Tom and Patricia Wilson. They might not have been perfect, but they raised me. You don't get those titles. Mom flinched, but nodded. That's fair. Margaret and Richard, then. My parents sat gingerly on the opposite couch. The distance between them and James felt like miles. Ryan said you wanted to talk, Dad said. Ryan wants us to talk. I'm not sure I have anything to say to you. Then listen, I said. James, just listen. Give them a chance to say what they need to say. Why should I? Because Emma deserves better than a fractured family. Because you deserve to make an informed decision about whether to have a relationship with them. Because they're my parents, and I'm trying to figure out if I can forgive them, and I need to see if they can be honest, really honest, without excuses or justifications. I turned to my parents. Tell him everything. Tell him why you really made the choice you made. Tell him what you've been hiding, because I know there's more. I can feel it. Mom and Dad exchanged that look again, the one I'd come to recognize as code for, there's something we haven't told you. There is more, Dad finally said. Something we didn't tell you at the first meeting because we thought it would make things worse. What? I asked, my stomach dropping. Mom took a shaky breath. The reason we chose to keep you instead of James, it wasn't random, and it wasn't just about the heart condition. Then what was it? We bonded with you first. You were born 7 minutes before James. The nurses cleaned you up and handed you to me while they were still working on him, and in those 7 minutes, I held you and looked at you and fell completely in love with you. By the time they brought James over, I'd already imprinted on you. You were mine, and James was... Was what? James's voice was dangerously quiet. Was the other baby, Mom finished, tears streaming down her face. I know how terrible that sounds. I know it makes me a monster, but that's the truth. Those 7 minutes made all the difference. I held you, Ryan, and you were my son. And when they brought James over, I loved him too, but differently. You were mine in a way he wasn't. The room was silent, except for Emma making small baby noises. So you gave away the baby you didn't bond with as quickly, the spare, the extra, the one you could live without. It wasn't that calculated, Dad protested. We were going to keep you both. We were going to figure it out somehow. But then the doctors came in and told us about James's heart condition, and the social worker suggested adoption, and your mother looked at Ryan and then at you, and she chose, James finished. She chose the baby she'd held first, the baby she'd bonded with, and I was convenient to give away because she didn't love me as much. That's not true, Mom said desperately. I loved you both. But you loved Ryan more, because of 7 minutes, because of timing, because he happened to be born first. James stood up carefully, still holding Emma. He walked over to my mother and placed my daughter in her arms. Then he looked at her with an expression I couldn't read. Thank you, he said. For what? Mom whispered. For finally telling me the truth. For admitting that it wasn't about money or medical care or what was best for everyone. It was about you choosing one baby over another because you loved one more. That's the real reason. And as terrible as it is, at least it's honest. James, he's going to go now, he said calmly. I'm going to leave before I say something I can't take back. Please don't, I said. Please stay. We can work through this. Work through what, Ryan? Work through the fact that your mother looked at two babies and decided one was worth keeping and one wasn't? Work through the fact that 7 minutes of biology determined my entire life? It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. She bonded with you, she didn't bond with me. So you got a family, and I got abandoned. That's the story. That's the truth we've all been dancing around. He grabbed his jacket. I need to go. James, wait! But he was already heading for the door. I followed him outside. James, please, don't leave like this. He stopped at his car, his hand on the door handle. I can't be here right now, Ryan. I can't sit in that room with them and pretend we're all going to be one big happy family. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to give this a chance, to see if we can build something from all this wreckage. Why? James turned to face me fully. Why do you care so much about fixing this? You got everything, Ryan. You got the parents who loved you, you got the stable childhood, you got the family. Why do you need me in it? Because you're my brother, I said simply, my twin, and I'm tired of losing things before I even knew I had them. I lost 30 years with you. I don't want to lose any more. James's face worked through several emotions. I need time. How much time? I don't know. Days, weeks, maybe longer. But Ryan, I can't do this right now. I can't sit there and listen to your mother explain how 7 minutes determined that you were the chosen one and I was expendable. You weren't expendable. To her, I was. That's what she just said? She bonded with you in 7 minutes and didn't bond with me. That's the definition of expendable. He got in his car. I'll call you, eventually, but I need space right now. From me too? He hesitated. No, from them. But if being in your life means being in their lives, then yeah, maybe from you too. I don't know yet. He drove away, leaving me standing in the driveway for the second time in a month, watching someone I cared about leave because of secrets my parents had kept. When I went back inside, my parents were both crying. Emma was back in Sarah's arms, oblivious to the drama unfolding around her. I shouldn't have told him, Mom sobbed. I should have kept that part secret. No, I said firmly, you should have told him 30 years ago. You should have been honest from the beginning, but you weren't. And now we're all dealing with the consequences. Ryan, please. Please what? Please forgive you? Please tell you it's okay? It's not okay, Mom. You chose one baby over the other because of 7 minutes. You made a decision that destroyed James's childhood because you bonded with me first. How is any of that okay? It's not okay, Dad said quietly. We know it's not okay. But Ryan, you have Emma now. You're a father. Tell me honestly, if you'd been in our position, scared and broke, with 2 newborns and impossible choices, tell me you wouldn't have made the same decision. I looked down at Emma in Sarah's arms, tried to imagine being 22 with twins and no money, tried to imagine choosing between them. And I couldn't. I couldn't imagine a world where I'd give either of my children away regardless of circumstances. I wouldn't have done what you did. I would have found another way. There wasn't another way, Mom insisted. We looked, we tried. There was no other way. Then you should have tried harder. I picked up Emma from Sarah's arms. I think you should go, both of you. I need time with my family. Ryan, you're our family. Am I? Because James is your family too. Your son, your flesh and blood, and you gave him away. So forgive me if I'm having trouble believing that family means anything to you beyond convenience. It was harsh, cruel even, but I was too tired and too angry to soften my words. My parents left, again, and I sat on the couch with my wife and daughter, wondering how everything had gotten so broken so fast. What are you going to do? Sarah asked quietly. I don't know, I admitted. James needs space, my parents need forgiveness I can't give yet, and I need I stopped because I didn't know what I needed. Answers? Understanding? A time machine? You need to heal, Sarah finished. You need time to process everything. You need to figure out who you are now that you know the truth about your family. Who am I? You're a good man, a good husband, a good father, and a good brother to James, even though you're just learning how. What if he doesn't come back? What if this is too much for him? Then you give him space and hope he finds his way back eventually. But Ryan, you can't fix this. You can't make your parents' choice okay. You can't undo 30 years of pain. All you can do is be present for James now and be honest with Emma about her family's history when she's old enough to understand. She was right, but it didn't feel like enough. I looked down at Emma, sleeping peacefully in my arms, and made a silent promise. I would never make her doubt she was wanted. I would never make choices that would leave her feeling abandoned or unloved. I would never keep secrets that would fracture her sense of family. Whatever mistakes my parents have made, I wouldn't repeat them. That was all I could control. The rest, James's healing, my parents' redemption, this family's future, would have to unfold in its own time. James didn't call for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence that felt like abandonment all over again. I texted him a few times, nothing heavy, just updates about Emma, a funny article I thought he'd like, a picture of me wearing the same expression he had in his profile photo. No response. Sarah told me to give him space. My parents told me to keep trying. I didn't know which approach was right, so I did both. Gave him space while also sending occasional messages to let him know I was still here. In the meantime, I tried to build some kind of normal life. Sarah and I fell into the exhausting rhythm of new parenthood. Emma ate and slept and filled diapers at unpredictable intervals. We learned her different cries: hungry, tired, uncomfortable. We took turns with night wakings. We marveled at every tiny development like we'd invented babies ourselves. My parents called every few days asking to visit. I let them come once a week on Sundays. The visits were stilted and awkward, all of us carefully avoiding the topic of James while his absence hung over everything like a ghost. "Have you heard from him?" Mom finally asked during the third Sunday visit. "No." "Do you think you'll come back?" "I don't know, Mom. You hurt him pretty badly. The bonding thing, that was a lot to admit. I thought honesty was what he wanted. He wanted honesty, not confirmation that his worst fears were true. There's a difference." Mom looked like I'd slapped her. "You think I'm a monster too, don't you? I think you made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. But I also think James has a right to be angry about that choice. Those things both exist at once. Can you forgive me? Eventually?" I looked at Emma sleeping in her bassinet. "I'm trying, for her sake, because I want her to have grandparents who are part of her life. But Mom, I can't unhear what you said. You bonded with me in 7 minutes and gave away the other baby. That's hard to process." "What should I have done differently?" Mom asked, frustrated now. "Should I have given you away instead? Would that have been better?" "You should have kept us both," I said. "You should have found a way. Other people manage with twins." "Other people aren't us," Mom's voice rose. "Other people didn't have our circumstances, our resources, our medical situation. It's easy to judge from 30 years in the future when you've never faced that impossible choice, but we did the best we could at the time." "And it wasn't good enough," I said flatly. "Your best left one son abandoned and one son lied to. So I'm sorry if I can't just pat you on the back and tell you everything's fine." Sarah cleared her throat. "Maybe we should take a break from this conversation. Emma's waking up and I need to feed her." My parents left shortly after, another tense, unresolved visit. "You're being hard on them," Sarah said after they'd gone. "Am I supposed to just accept what they did?" "No, but you could acknowledge that they were in a terrible position, that there might not have been a right answer. There's always a right answer. The right answer is you don't give away your child. Unless keeping both children means they both suffer. Unless your choice is between placing one child for adoption or failing both of them. I stared at her. You're defending them. I'm trying to have empathy for an impossible situation. Ryan, we have one baby and we're barely surviving. Can you imagine having two at 22 with no money? It's not as simple as just finding a way. You sound like them. Maybe because I'm a parent now too. Maybe because I can imagine being so scared and overwhelmed that you make choices you never thought you'd make. I wanted to argue, but I was too tired, too emotionally drained from weeks of tension and unresolved conflict. Emma saved me by starting to cry. I picked her up and walked her around the living room, bouncing gently, whispering nonsense words. She settled against my chest, her tiny body warm and solid and real. I thought about James, about him growing up without this, without parents who held him when he cried, without the absolute certainty that he was loved and wanted. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Tom Wilson, James's adoptive father. He asked me to contact you. He's willing to talk, but he needs it to be just the two of you. No parents, no wives, just brothers. Are you willing to meet halfway? There's a diner in Grants Pass. Saturday at noon, if that works. I stared at the message. James hadn't contacted me directly, had gone through Tom Wilson instead. That said something about where his head was, still too hurt or angry to reach out himself, but willing to try. I'll be there, I texted back. Good. He needs his family, his real family. You seem like a decent guy. Don't let him down. The message should have felt intrusive, this stranger telling me how to handle my relationship with my brother. But instead it felt like validation, like someone who'd known James for 30 years was telling me I mattered to him. Saturday took forever to arrive. I spent the week anxious and distracted, playing through scenarios of what James might say, how I might respond, whether we could find our way back to the tentative connection we'd been building. Sarah kissed me goodbye Saturday morning. Be honest with him. Listen more than you talk. And Ryan, don't try to fix everything. Just be his brother. What if I don't know how to do that? Then figure it out together. That's what brothers do. The drive to Grants Pass took 2 hours. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in my car gathering courage. Finally, I went inside. James was already there, sitting in a corner booth nursing a coffee. He looked tired, thinner, like he'd been carrying too much weight for too long. Hey, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hey. We sat in awkward silence until the waitress came to take my order. Coffee, black, the same way James drank his. After she left, James said, "Thank you for coming." "Of course, you're my brother." "Am I? Because sometimes I'm not sure what that means." "It means you're family. It means I care about you. It means I want you in my life. Even though being in your life means dealing with our parents? Even though." James took a sip of his coffee. "I've been thinking a lot these past few weeks about what your mom said, about the 7 minutes. James, let me finish. I've been thinking about it and I realized something. It wasn't about me. The choice they made, it wasn't about me being less lovable or less wanted. It was about timing, about biology, about the randomness of who happened to be born first. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. Both. It's worse because it's so arbitrary, but it's better because it means there wasn't something wrong with me. I wasn't the defective baby they didn't want. I was just the second baby when they could only handle one. You weren't defective, I said firmly. You were never defective. I know that intellectually, But emotionally, I've spent 30 years feeling like I must have been missing something. Like if I'd been better, stronger, healthier, more something, they would have kept me. Finding out it was just 7 minutes of bonding time, that's almost a relief. But you're still hurt. Of course I'm still hurt. They gave me away, Ryan. Whatever their reasons, however understandable their choice, they still gave me to strangers to raise. That's not something you just get over. I know. Do you? Because you keep trying to fix this, to make everyone reconcile and be a happy family. But maybe we can't be that. Maybe the best we can do is what we're doing now. You and me, building something new, without them. The thought of excluding my parents entirely made my chest tight, but I understood where he was coming from. What do you want? From me? From them? From this whole situation? James was quiet for a long time. I want a relationship with you, with Emma, with your family, your actual family, the one you're building with Sarah. But I don't think I can have a relationship with our parents. Not now. Maybe not ever. That's going to be complicated. I know, which is why I'm giving you an out. If having me in your life makes things too difficult with them, I'll understand. I'll step back. Absolutely not, I said immediately. You're not stepping back. You're my brother, my twin. And if my parents can't handle that I have a relationship with you, that's their problem to solve, not yours. But they're your parents. They raised you. You love them. I do. But I love you too. And I'm not choosing between you. James's eyes filled with tears. You barely know me. I know enough. I know we have the same coffee order and the same recurring nightmare. I know you play guitar and love science fiction and broke your left wrist when you were 9. I know you spent 30 years feeling like you didn't belong anywhere, and I'm not going to contribute to that feeling by making you feel like you don't belong in my life. Ryan, you're my brother, I repeated. That's not conditional. It's not dependent on whether you have a relationship with our parents or whether things are easy or convenient. You're my brother, and that means you're stuck with me. James has let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Okay. I'll stick around. I'll be Emma's uncle. I'll be your brother. But I need you to understand, I might never forgive them. I might never want a relationship with them, and I need to know you're okay with that. I'm okay with it, even though part of me wasn't sure that was true. But James needed to hear it, needed to know he wasn't responsible for healing this family. We talked for 2 more hours, about Emma, about James's job, about nothing in particular. Building the foundation of brotherhood that should have existed all along. When we finally left the diner, James pulled me into a hug. Thank you, he said, for showing up, for not giving up on me. That's what brothers do. Over the next few months, James and I fell into a rhythm. He'd drive up once a month to visit. We'd have dinner, he'd hold Emma, we'd watch terrible sci-fi movies and make fun of the bad special effects. Gradually, the awkwardness faded. We stopped being strangers connected by biology and became something more, friends who happened to be brothers. Sarah loved him. Emma clearly adored him. She'd light up when he walked in, reaching for him with her tiny hands. He was gentle with her, patient, natural in a way that suggested he'd be a great father someday if he chose that path. My parents knew about the visits, but didn't ask to be included. Mom would occasionally ask how James was doing, and I'd give brief updates, but we all understood the boundary. James was in my life, not theirs. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the family reunion anyone had imagined, but it was real, and it was ours. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents slowly began to heal. Not because I'd forgiven them, that was still a work in progress, but because Emma needed grandparents, and I needed to find a way to let them be that without constantly relitigating the past. We established new rules. They could see Emma regularly, they could be involved in her life, but we didn't talk about James unless I brought him up, and they had to accept that he might never want a relationship with them. "I can live with that," Mom said during one conversation. "As long as he's happy, as long as he has you and Sarah and Emma. That's all I wanted for him anyway, a family. He has that now, just not the one you expected." "I know. And Ryan, thank you for showing us a chance with Emma. I know we don't deserve it. You're her grandparents. She deserves to know you. Even after what we did? You made a terrible choice 30 years ago, but you were also good parents to me. Those things both exist. I'm trying to hold both truths at once." It was the closest I could come to forgiveness at that point. An acknowledgement that they were complicated people who'd done something terrible and something good simultaneously. When Emma was 6 months old, something unexpected happened. James called me on a Tuesday evening, his voice tight. "I talked to Tom Wilson today, my adoptive father." "Okay, how did that go?" "He told me something about the adoption, about why they chose me." "What did he say?" "He said the agency gave them a choice between 2 babies, twins, one healthy, one with a heart condition. They specifically chose me because of the heart condition." I sat down heavily. "What?" "They wanted the baby with medical needs. Patricia had always wanted to be a nurse but never finished school. She liked the idea of being needed, of having a child who required extra care. So they specifically requested me." "James, that's twisted?" "Yeah, but also weirdly fitting. Your parents gave me away because I was sick. My adoptive parents chose me because I was sick. My entire existence has been defined by a heart condition that fixed itself anyway. What are you going to do with that information?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to be angry. Part of me thinks at least someone wanted me, even if it was for screwed up reasons. Part of me just feels exhausted by it all." "Do you want to come over, talk in person?" "Yeah, actually, yeah. I could use my brother right now." He drove up that night. We sat on my back porch while Emma slept inside, drinking beer and talking about the absurdity of our situations. We were both commodities. You were the easy baby they could handle. I was the project baby they could fix. Nobody just wanted us for being us. Sarah and I want Emma for being her. Not for what she can do or how easy she is or whether we make us feel needed, just for existing. That's how it should be. That's how it's going to be. For Emma and for any other kids we have. No conditions, no qualifications. Just love. You're going to be a good dad, Ryan. I'm trying, learning from my parents' mistakes. And their successes, James added. They screwed up with me, but they did something right with you. You turned out okay. So did you. Despite everything, you turned out okay. James smiled slightly. Yeah, I guess I did. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then James said, I've been thinking about telling our parents where Tom Wilson told me, about them specifically choosing me because of the heart condition. Why? Because I want them to know that their choice to give me away worked out exactly as planned. They gave me to a family that could handle my medical needs, and that family chose me specifically for those needs. It's like a perfect circle of dysfunction. Will telling them make you feel better? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe I just want them to understand how their choice rippled out, how it affected every part of my life. Then tell them, not for their sake, but for yours. If you need them to hear it, they should hear it. He thought about it. Would you be there when I tell them? Of course. And would you be okay if I wasn't nice about it? If I said everything I've been holding back? James, you can say whatever you need to say. I'm not going to police your feelings or protect them from the consequences of their choices. Even if it makes family gatherings awkward forever, we'll figure it out. 2 weeks later, we arranged another meeting. this time at my parents' house. James wanted to be on their territory, wanted them to feel the weight of his presence in the home where I'd grown up, and he hadn't. Mom and Dad were visibly nervous when we arrived. They'd cleaned the house obsessively. I could smell furniture polish and see vacuum tracks in the carpet. "James," Mom said when we walked in, "thank you for coming." "I'm not here to reconcile," James said immediately. "I'm here to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting." "Okay," Dad said, "we're listening." We sat down in the same living room where I'd spent countless hours as a child. James sat in the armchair, probably the same one I'd sat in when I was little. The symmetry was not lost on me. I talked to my adoptive father recently, Tom Wilson. He told me something interesting about the adoption, about why they chose me specifically. My parents waited. They were given a choice between two twin babies, one healthy, one with a heart condition. They specifically requested me because of the heart condition. Patricia Wilson wanted to be needed, wanted a child who required extra care, so they chose the sick baby. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "So here's the thing," James continued. "You gave me away because you couldn't handle the baby with medical needs, and the people you gave me to chose me because they wanted a baby with medical needs. Your unwanted child was their desired project." "James, we didn't know." "I know you didn't know, but that doesn't change what happened. You made a choice based on my health, and that choice defined my entire life. The Wilsons made a choice based on my health, and that also defined my entire life. I was never just James. I was always James with the heart condition, even after it fixed itself." "We're sorry," Mom said, tears streaming down her face. "We're so sorry." "I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. Sorry doesn't give me back 30 years. Sorry doesn't make me feel like I was wanted for who I was instead of evaluated based on my medical status." "What do you want from us?" Dad asked. "Nothing," James said. "I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to know how your choice rippled out, how it affected every single aspect of my life. You wanted to be honest with me? I'm being honest with you. Your decision to give me away shaped everything about who I became, and none of it was easy." "But you're okay now," Mom said desperately. "You're a good person. You have Ryan. You have Emma. You're building a life." "I'm okay despite what you did, not because of it. I'm okay because I'm resilient, because I survived adoptive parents who made me feel like an obligation, because I found Ryan through a DNA test and he turned out to be a decent person. But I could have been okay with you. I could have grown up in this house with my twin brother. We could have been a family." "We can still be a family," Mom pleaded. "No," James said gently. "We can't. You're Ryan's family, Emma's family, but you're not mine. You gave up that right 30 years ago." He stood up. "That's all I came to say. Ryan wanted me to give you a chance to explain. I've listened, I've heard your reasons, and I understand them, but understanding doesn't equal forgiveness. You made your choice, and I'm making mine. I'm choosing to have a relationship with Ryan and his family, and to not have one with you." "James, please!" "This is goodbye. Not forever, maybe, but for now. I need to build my life without the weight of wondering what you think or feel or want from me. I need to just be James, not the twin you gave away." He walked toward the door. I stood up to follow him. "Ryan, you don't have to leave," Mom said. "Yeah, I do. He's my brother. And right now, he needs me more than you do." We left my parents' house together. In the driveway, James turned to me. "Thank you for backing me up in there. Always. You're my brother." even if it means choosing between me and them? It's not about choosing. It's about showing up for the people who need you. Right now, that's you. James hugged me. I'm glad the DNA test found you. Even with all this pain and complication, I'm glad I found you. Me too. Emma turned 3 years old last week. We had a small party in our backyard, just family and a few of her little friends from preschool. Balloons, cake, presents wrapped in princess paper. All the standard trappings of a childhood birthday. James came, of course. He's been at every birthday, every holiday, every milestone since that first meeting when Emma was a week old. He's Uncle James, the one who brings the best presents and does funny voices and lets her stay up past bedtime when he babysits. Watching him with her, you'd never know he didn't grow up in a family, that he spent his childhood feeling like he had to earn his place. With Emma, he's natural, easy, full of an uncomplicated love that he never got to experience himself. My parents came too. They arrived early to help set up, bringing Emma's favorite cupcakes from the bakery downtown. They've been careful over the past 3 years, respectful of boundaries, present but not overbearing, grateful for whatever access I allow them. They're good grandparents, loving, attentive, genuinely invested in Emma's life, and she adores them, which makes it easier to let go of some of the anger I've carried. But they're also haunted. I see it in Mom's face when she watches James play with Emma, this wistful longing for a relationship she'll never have. I see it in Dad's careful distance whenever James is around, like he's afraid one wrong move will send James running. James and my parents exist in the same physical space now, at Emma's birthday parties, at Christmas, at the occasional family dinner. But they don't interact beyond basic pleasantries. A polite hello and goodbye. Nothing more. It's not ideal, but it's functional. And after 3 years, we've all learned to navigate the strange geography of our fractured family. Today, after the party ended and the other guests had left, after Emma had crashed hard from sugar overload and Sarah had taken her inside for a nap, the 4 of us ended up on the back porch. Me, James, Mom, and Dad. All of us too full of cake and too tired to maintain our usual careful distance. We sat in awkward silence for a while. Then Mom, emboldened by wine and Emma's sticky hug goodbye, said quietly, "James, she talks about you constantly. Uncle James this, Uncle James that. You're so good with her." James looked uncomfortable but nodded. "She's a great kid, easy to love." "She gets that from Ryan," Dad said. "He was an easy child too, happy, adaptable, never gave us much trouble." "Lucky you," James said, and there was an edge to his voice, but also something softer, less bitter than it would have been 3 years ago. "We weren't lucky," Mom said. "We made choices, some good, some terrible, but luck had nothing to do with how Ryan turned out. That was him, his nature." "And my nature?" James asked. "What was my nature? You knew me for 3 days. Did you see anything in those 3 days that made you think I'd be harder to raise?" "No," Mom admitted. "You were perfect. You were both perfect. That's what made it so impossible." "If we'd been less perfect, would you have kept us both? Like if we'd been colicky or difficult, would that have made the choice easier somehow?" "I don't know," Dad said honestly. "I've spent 3 years trying to rewrite that time in my head, trying to figure out what we could have done differently, and I can't find an answer that doesn't involve us being different people and different circumstances with different resources." "So you stand by your choice," James said flatly. "No," Mom said quickly. "I regret it every day, but I also don't know what else we could have done at the time. Those two things exist together, regret and lack of alternatives." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I never expected to hear him say. "I've been in therapy for the past year, working through all of this." "That's good," I said. "Really good." My therapist asks me a lot about forgiveness, whether I think I can forgive you. He looked at my parents, whether I even want to. And, Mom's voice was barely a whisper, I don't know yet. Some days I think maybe. Other days I'm still so angry I can barely be in the same room as you. But I'm working on it. Working on understanding that you were kids yourselves, that you were terrified, that you did the best you could with what you had. That's all we ever wanted, understanding. Not absolution, we don't deserve that, but understanding. I understand you, James said. I don't agree with you. I don't think you made the right choice, but I understand why you made it. Is that enough? Mom asked. To build something from? I don't know. Maybe eventually, but not yet. For now, this is what I can give you. Coexistence. Shared space for Ryan and Emma's sake. Civil conversations at birthday parties. That's my limit right now. We'll take it, Dad said. Whatever you're willing to give, we'll take. They left shortly after, Mom hugging me extra tight on her way out, Dad squeezing my shoulder in silent gratitude. When they were gone, James and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. That was big, I said. What you said to them. Yeah, probably more than I should have said. I don't know if I actually can forgive them. But you're thinking about it. That's something. My therapist says forgiveness isn't about them. It's about me. About releasing the anger so it doesn't poison the rest of my life. Is it working? Slowly, very slowly. He paused. You know what's weird? The person I'm angriest at isn't them. It's Tom and Patricia Wilson. Your adoptive parents? Yeah. Your parents made a choice out of desperation when they were barely adults themselves. The Wilsons made a choice to adopt a baby as some kind of project, to use me to fulfill Patricia's fantasy of being needed. That feels more deliberately selfish somehow. Are you still in contact with Tom? Barely. He called on my birthday. 30 seconds of awkward conversation. That's it. Do you want more? No. I spent 30 years trying to earn his love. I'm done with that. If he wants a relationship with me, he can put in the effort for once. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then James said, I've been seeing someone. Dating, I mean. Really? That's great. Tell me about her. Him, actually. His name is Marcus. He's a teacher, elementary school. Very patient, very kind, very good at dealing with my complicated family situation. I'm happy for you. When do I get to meet him? Soon. He's nervous about meeting you. Says he feels like he has to impress the twin brother. Tell him the bar is low. Just don't be a secret. That's my only requirement. James laughed. Noted. Honesty is the foundation of everything. It really is. Sarah came out on the porch, Emma on her hip. Someone woke up and is asking for Uncle James. That's my cue, James said, standing up and taking Emma from Sarah's arms. Hey, birthday girl, did you have good dreams? I dreamed about cake, she said seriously. Big cake, with princesses. The best kind of dreams, James agreed. I watched them together, my brother and my daughter, laughing about cake dreams, and felt grateful for this strange, broken, beautiful family we'd built from the wreckage of secrets. Sarah sat down beside me, leaning her head on my shoulder. You okay? She asked. Yeah, actually, yeah. For the first time in 3 years, I think I might be okay. What changed? James is working on forgiveness. My parents are accepting whatever relationship he's willing to give. Everyone's stopped trying to force something that isn't ready to exist yet. It feels like maybe we're all healing in our own ways. Even you? I thought about it. Even me. I'm not as angry as I used to be. I can see my parents as flawed people who made a terrible choice instead of villains who destroyed my family. And I can appreciate what I have with James instead of mourning what we lost. That's growth, Sarah said. It's something. Emma called for me. "Daddy, come play." I got up and joined James and Emma on the lawn. We played her favorite game, where she's a princess and we're dragons who are actually nice and just want to be her friends. It's a weird game, but she loves it. As we played, I thought about all the ways this family didn't look like I'd expected. My parents were grandparents, but not to both their sons. James was my brother, but had never been a son to my parents. Emma had an uncle she adored and grandparents who loved her, but those people barely spoke to each other. It wasn't the neat nuclear family I'd grown up thinking was normal, but it was ours. Complicated, messy, built on a foundation of secrets and lies that we were slowly learning to work around. Later that night, after James had gone home and Emma was finally truly asleep, Sarah and I lay in bed talking quietly. "Do you think James will ever really forgive your parents?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe he'll just reach a place where the anger doesn't consume him anymore and he can exist around them without it hurting. That might be the best we can hope for. And you? Have you forgiven them?" I thought about the question. I've forgiven them for lying to me. That was about protecting themselves, and while it hurt, I understand it. But forgiving them for giving away James, that's harder. Because it wasn't their lie, it was their choice. And that choice hurt someone I love. You love James. He's my brother, my twin. Of course I love him. That's sweet. And a little sad. Why sad? Because you're grieving 30 years you didn't get with him. Even while you're building something now. She was right. I was grieving. Grieving the childhood we should have had together, the inside jokes and shared memories and effortless understanding that twins are supposed to have. But I was also grateful for what we did have. The present, the future, the slow building of brotherhood, one conversation, one visit, one birthday party at a time. "I got a letter yesterday," Sarah said, "from my sister in California. She and Tom are having twins. They just found out." "Twins? Wow." She's terrified. She keeps talking about how they can barely afford one baby. How are they going to manage two? And I didn't know what to tell her because I kept thinking about your parents. What did you tell her? That she'd figure it out. That people manage. That twins are hard, but also a gift because the babies have each other from the beginning. That's true. But is it? I mean, your parents couldn't figure it out. They didn't manage. The twins didn't have each other. My parents were 22 with no support system and one baby with a medical emergency. Your sister is 35 with established careers and good insurance and parents who live nearby and can help. The circumstances are completely different. But what if they're not? What if she gets overwhelmed? What if something goes wrong and she has to make an impossible choice? Then she makes it, and she lives with the consequences, just like everyone else who's ever faced an impossible situation. Sarah was quiet. Then she said, "Would you ever want another baby? Give Emma a sibling? Do you?" "I don't know. Part of me thinks she should have what you and James didn't get, a sibling relationship from the beginning. But part of me is terrified of messing it up somehow, of making choices that hurt one or both of them. We're not my parents," I said firmly. "We're not 22. We're not desperate. We're not facing the choices they faced. If we have another baby, we'll figure it out, together, the way parents are supposed to. Promise? Promise. No secrets, no lies, no choosing one child over another. We figure it out together or we don't do it at all." Sarah kissed me. "Okay, let's think about it." 6 months later, we started trying for another baby. It took 4 months to get pregnant, and when we did, Sarah was convinced it would be twins. "It would be poetic justice," she said, only half joking. "The universe giving you a second chance at twin brotherhood through your own children." But it wasn't twins. It was a boy. We named him Michael, after my brother's middle name. a small gesture toward the family we were building, the connections we were honoring. James cried when we told him the name. "You don't have to do that," he said. "You don't have to name him after me." "His name is Michael James Morrison," I said, "after both his uncles, you and Sarah's brother. We want him to know where he comes from, all of it. The good and the bad, the real, however complicated that is." My parents cried too when they found out. Mom held baby Michael with the same wonder she'd shown with Emma, but there was something different in her expression, something that looked like redemption or hope. "2 grandchildren," she said softly. "We have 2 grandchildren." "You do," I confirmed. "James is their uncle." "He is." "And we're their grandparents." "You are." "It's a gift we don't deserve." "Maybe not, but Emma and Michael deserve grandparents, so here we are." It wasn't forgiveness, it was acceptance, a recognition that life moves forward even when the past is complicated. The children can grow up loved by imperfect people who made terrible choices before those children were born. Emma and Michael would know the truth about their family history. When they were old enough, we'd tell them about the twins who were separated at birth, about the choice their grandparents made, about Uncle James who found us through DNA. We'd tell them because secrets destroy families, because lies compound, because the truth, however painful, is always better than a carefully constructed fiction. James is part of our family now, not in the way he would have been if he'd grown up with us, but in the way he can be, present, involved, loved. He comes to dinners. He babysits. He's teaching Emma to play guitar and has promised to do the same with Michael when he's older. He calls me late at night sometimes when the grief hits him, when he thinks about everything he missed, when he wonders what his life would have been like if our parents had made a different choice. I don't have answers for him, but I listen, and I remind him that he's here now, that he's loved now, that the present can't erase the past, but it can give the past the different meaning. My parents are learning to live with what they did, not forgive themselves, I don't think they ever will, but accept it. Accept that they hurt someone they should have protected. Accept that their son might never forgive them. Accept that their grandchildren will grow up knowing the truth about them. "Do you think Emma will hate us when she finds out?" Mom asked once. "I don't know," I said honestly. "She might. Or she might understand that people are complicated, that grandparents who love her also made terrible choices before she was born. I can't control how she'll feel." "But you'll still let us be part of her life?" "Unless you give me a reason not to, yes. You're her grandparents. You love her. That matters." "Even though we didn't love James enough to keep him?" "You loved him. You just loved yourself and your fear more. That's the truth I'm going to tell Emma when she's old enough. That you were scared kids who made a selfish choice. Not that you were monsters. Not that you didn't care. Just that you chose wrong when faced with impossible circumstances." Is that fair? I don't know, but it's honest. And honesty is the only foundation worth building on. Last week, James brought Marcus to meet us. They'd been dating for almost a year, serious enough that James was ready for us to meet him. Marcus was exactly what James had described: kind, patient, good with kids. He sat on the floor with Emma and Michael, building block towers and making silly voices, while James watched with an expression I'd never seen before. Contentment. Maybe even happiness. After the kids were in bed, the 4 of us, Me, Sarah, James, and Marcus sat around the dining table with wine and the comfortable exhaustion of adults who've survived a day with small children. "Your family is lovely," Marcus said to James. "I can see why you wanted me to meet them." "They're good people. Complicated, but good. All families are complicated. The question is whether the people in them are trying to do better. Yours are?" He was right. We were all trying. My parents trying to make amends for choices they couldn't undo. James trying to forgive the unforgivable. Me trying to hold space for everyone while building something stable for my kids. None of us were perfect, but we were present. We were honest. We were doing the best we could with the family we had instead of the family we had imagined. And maybe that's all any of us can do. Tonight, as I write this, Emma is sleeping in her room with her favorite stuffed elephant. Michael is in his crib, thumb in his mouth. Sarah is reading in bed, waiting for me to join her. James texted an hour ago. "Thanks for today. Marcus really likes your family. Says he's never seen me this relaxed. Maybe you're good for me." "You're good for us too," I texted back. "Love you, brother." "Love you too." 3 words that meant everything. 3 words I'd never said to a sibling until 3 years ago. 3 words that represented the family we had built from the ashes of secrets and lies. I don't know what the future holds for us. I don't know if James will ever fully forgive our parents. I don't know if my kids will understand the complicated history of their family, or if they'll judge their grandparents harshly for what they did. But I know we're trying. All of us, in our own imperfect ways, are trying to build something real from what was broken. And maybe that's enough. Maybe trying is enough. Maybe love, however complicated and conditional and hard-won, is enough. I close my laptop and go to check on my kids one more time before bed. Emma is sprawled across her mattress, blankets kicked off. I cover her gently. Michael is still sucking his thumb, his face peaceful in sleep. They're perfect. They're wanted. They will never doubt that they belong exactly where they are. That's my promise to them, the one my brother never got. And as I stand there in the quiet house, listening to my children breathe, I think about the DNA test that started all of this. The random decision to spit in a tube and send it away. That test destroyed my family as I knew it, but it also gave me a brother. And in the end, I think that might be worth all the pain that came with it.